10,000 miles begins with a single step. If an initiative is taken, the rest of the venture falls into place and the mission starts. A very cheerful morning to one and all present here. I, Nikita Taneja, first year student at DME Media School, feel privileged to welcome you all to one of its kind international conference ICANN. ICANN 4 is organized by DME Media School in collaboration with School of Communication and Creative Arts, Deakin University, Melbourne, Australia. The ICANN 4 is being supported by Indian Council of Social Science Research, that is ICSSR. Before moving forward, we would like to brief you about the previous sessions of ICANN that were a huge success. The first edition of ICANN was held in March 2018, and the theme of the conference was India and Changing Aspects of News. The second edition of ICANN was held in June 2018 and was based on Indian cinema and alternate networks. The third edition of ICANN was held in June 2020. It was the first edition of world's first 10-day digital live international conference themed on issues of community, agenda, and news. The hashtag of the session was Conference for Change. Today, we have gathered here for the second edition, ICANN 4, and the theme of this conference is Information, Communication, and Artificial Networks. The hashtag of the conference is Communication Redefined. ICANN 4 would not have been possible without the support of our partners. I express my gratitude towards them. ICANN 4 has four knowledge partners: KR Mangalam University, Gurugram, Haryana; Adamast University, Kolkata; Makhanlal Chaturvedi National University of Journalism and Mass Communication, Bhopal; and Vigyan Prasar Government of India. ICANN 4 has also partnered with Department of Communication and Journalism, Guwahati University, Assam, and our international partner is Institute for International Journalism, EW Scripps School of Journalism, Ohio University, USA. The media partner for the conference is the Policy Times. The ICANN 4 has seen the participation of about 60 eminent scholars from 5 different continents and 11 countries, that are India, South Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, Bangladesh, USA, Mexico, France, Italy, Australia, and Ghana. More than 100 media educators and researchers have collected here to present their papers in the conference. ICANN 4 covers 36 live sessions, including 9 technical sessions, 3 workshops, 7 panel discussions, 3 special sessions, and 10 masterclasses. It's a matter of great honor that all the technical sessions of this edition of ICANN are being chaired and co chaired by representing different states of the country. I would also like to tell everyone that at DME Media School, we have our student body Spark that stands for Students with Positive Attitude and Resonating Communication. We also have our official newsletter named Journalism at DME, a fortnightly publication that covers all the major activities happening in and out of the campus. It's a student centered newsletter carried out entirely by them under the supervision of faculty members. DME TV is our official YouTube channel where you can find the playlist related to all our events, lecture series, film festivals, and all conferences. You can also attend our live sessions through our official Facebook page. For more information, follow us on our social media handles, whose links are being shared in the chat box. You can also visit the official website of ICANN 4 for more information. Now, I'd like to request Professor Dr. Ambrish Saxena, Dean, DME Media School and convener ICANN 4 to please say a few words.
Thank you, Nikita. So this is the seventh day of the conference, and a number of panel discussions, master classes, technical sessions have happened. So we are slowly moving towards the end of the conference, but then all sessions have proved very lively and all brainstorming. And the most important thing, obviously, in any international conference, since it's a research based conference, is the presentation of papers in the technical sessions. So we planned total 9 technical sessions, and today is the sixth technical session of this conference. And I'm grateful to Professor Sapna Naik, who has kindly accepted our request to be here in this session, chairing this session. And we have tried to reach out to uh, some substantial women scholars to oblige us by chairing these technical sessions. That was the objective. And also with a pan-India approach, so that all areas of the country can be covered. Also, since it's an international conference, we have tried to reach out to so many countries and the universities, because at least 5, 6 universities from the US alone, people from those universities are participating, so that the real flavor of an international conference can be built up. And this particular session is on integrated marketing communication, and then it's a relationship with the theme of the conference, particularly information and communication, and that also in the backdrop of this COVID-19. Many of the sessions, technical sessions, and other sessions in deliberations, we have decided to focus our discussion, particularly in the backdrop of this pandemic, because it's basically the pandemic which has affected us very deeply in every sphere, in fact. And in fact, this conference is also we planned on. We planned it in the month of May, but then the second wave compelled us to shift it to July. Last year, the same thing happened. We planned ICANN 3 in March in the physical mode, but right at the moment the lockdown happened, and then we had to shift it to June. But then there is a positive side to this. Last year, since it happened in the digital mode, then we could make it a 10-day event, wherein all the sessions we had to, or we could make live. So the same thing this year, we were planning to have the hybrid, some sessions in the physical mode, but then the second wave again pushed us to a level that again it's a completely online thing. But then we have tried to make it live, make it interactive, make it deliberative, so that the best use of this online mode can be achieved. So that is all from my side.
Thank you, sir, for those kind words. The theme of today's technical session is integrated marketing communication in the era of social media and artificial intelligence. There will be 7 presentations by different scholars and researchers today. The session will be chaired by Dr. Sapna MS, Professor at Department of Journalism and Coordinator of Community Radio Manasa, University of Mysore, Karnataka. The session will be co-chaired by Dr. Teenam Bora, Assistant Professor, DME Media School, Noida. I now invite Dr. Teenam Bora to introduce the chair for today's session.
Thank you, Nikita. Good morning to all. Let me introduce a brief profile of Dr. Sapna, who we are very happy to have with us today. Dr. Sapna MS is a professor at Department of Journalism and coordinator of the Community Radio Manasa at University of Mysore, Karnataka. She has also worked as a guest lecturer in Mahajan College and JSS Women's College, Mysore. She has an experience in writing for national dailies and has worked as a freelancer for Times of India. She's also known for making documentaries on various topics related to health, environment, and social concerns. She has presented research papers on miscellaneous journalism topics like health communication, media and farmers, private news channels in India, etc. She has also attended various national seminars on topics like environmental concerns and media, media for the masses, environment and media, and so on. Many of her articles have been published in books like Radio and Television in India, Art of Cinema, Art of Advertisement, and she has also presented research articles on topics like social media as a tool, human rights and citizen journalism in India, social networking sites, etc. She has been awarded as the Best Secretary by Public Relations Council of India in 2008. Sir M.V. Vishweshwaraya Global Leadership Award in 2012, Best Media Educator in 2018, and so on. She has conducted workshops for corporate managers, has led training programs for communication faculties, and has also been invited as guest speaker at various events and workshops. Welcome to Icon 4, Dr. Sapna. Uh, Kindly say a few words today.
Yeah, thank you, and very good morning to you, one and all. First and foremost, I would like to congratulate Dr. Ambrish Saxena sir for putting everybody together, because I know how much difficult it is to bring the people together and to plan the program, because planning, implementation, monitoring it, and also trying to evaluate the things are a very big thing. And I'm very happy that you have been doing it very continuously, and also without any kind of a hitch, you have been already been successfully doing this both offline as well as online. And as you told, this pandemic has forced every one of us to get into this online mode, which even I have a little kind of a thing, because it's not as we meet in person. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the DME institution for this, as also being giving me this opportunity to chair this technical session on integrated marketing communication in the era of social media and artificial intelligence. As we all know, and I'm very happy that there are a good number of papers which has come up, and we'll also be looking forward for our young upcoming research scholars, their ideas, their presentation and all. Just to give you a basic thing, because there are a good number of students, there are researchers, there are also faculty members, just to keep the mood on and just to set the tone of the conference and the technical session, I would just like to speak something about the integrated marketing communication, why it is so important today, and why these kind of work has to be taken by our young researchers and young scholars coming up in the media studies. As we all know that in this era of social media, the success of this integrated communication completely depends upon the developing the content, how the messages are being developed, because it needs to be more creative, it needs to be more it has to have a kind of a communication, it is something about storytelling, it is something about the narration, each and everything comes as a message. But with the coming up of this, and with a lot of evolution in the terms, in the changes which has happened, especially in the marketing era, the social media, the kind of media channels which are being used by these corporates or the individuals or the organization has completely undergone a change. The people, the audience, we need, whenever you prepare a message or whenever you're trying to put anything on this media, because it has to be communicated to the audience, holistic approach. Okay, you need to take into consideration the cultural background, the economical background, the ideologies. There are a lot of things with, there are a lot of advantages also, there is a lot of disadvantages also, but you need to understand the needs and the likes and the dislikes of the audience, because today gone are the days when the people used to look into the papers. Everything comes on social media today. So whatever goes into the social media has to be done very it has to be evaluated, it has to be critically analyzed, then you are supposed to put into, because it can make a company or it can mar a company. So as I told, the message in the different media platforms keeps changing, but the content, the USP remains the same. So now though there are a lot of things which people have been doing, it can be in the form of direct marketing, or it can be personal selling, it can be the social media, it can be the sales promotion, everything is happening on social media. So the corporates also are very careful the kind of messages they sent across on this public domain. So based on this, this is the kind of thing, and we are looking forward that the whole world is revolving around the social media, especially the corporates are making use of this tool in a very stronger way. It has got its own effects also. Keeping up this, many of the research scholars are coming up with good number of studies. There are a lot of good works which are happening in the integrated marketing, because we need to speak about promotions, we need to speak about the advertisement. All this competition has given a lot about the importance of this integrated marketing communication. I'm very happy that there are a good number of papers coming up with the various diversions, and the various thoughts are coming up from our young researchers. I look forward for a very good presentation. All the very best for everybody, and also thank Ambrish sir for giving me this opportunity and listen to the thing. Have a good day, and let's go ahead. Yeah, Tina.
Thank you, ma'am. So before we start, let me brief the participants about the guidelines. Participants should enter with their names as mentioned in the communication with us. Participants are requested to mute their mics when others are presenting. Participants are requested to introduce themselves and their topics. They will be given 5 to 8 minutes for their presentations, followed by Q&A. Questions are invited in the chat box. And in case of any question query in the midst of presentation, the participants should choose the option of raising hands. So let us move on to the first paper then. We have Sapna Singh, Assistant Professor, KR Mangalam University, Gurugram, and her co-author is Dr. Aarti Shukla, Extension Lecturer, Government Girls College, Gurugram. And the title of their paper is Advertising Promotion in Artificial Intelligence-Based Social Media.
A very good morning to everyone. Good morning, Sapna ma'am. And first of all, I would like to thank the DME team and ICANN team for giving me the opportunity to present over here in this international conference. And it is a very privileged moment for me to be present in this international conference. Thanks a lot. And now I just started with my presentation. So my topic for the presentation, that is the advertisement promotion in artificial intelligence-based social media. The first thing, I just wanted to let everyone that why I had choose this particular topic, because during this pandemic, especially in this pandemic, I have been observed the artificial intelligence importance actually. We know the artificial intelligence and we are using the artificial intelligence since long. And we, from our childhood, we heard about the robots and this robotic science. But when actually this pandemic suffered, then pandemic comes over us, we all are totally dependent on the internet, on the technology, and morely on the artificial intelligence. So now I would like to start my presentation that is on artificial promotion and advertisement promotion and artificial intelligence based on social media. My pointers for the presentation, first of all, I will just introduce abstract introduction, the contribution of artificial intelligence advertising on attributes of artificial intelligence in social media, future of artificial intelligence in social media, data privacy and artificial intelligence age, then conclusion. So first, I'll start with the abstract. In the present perspective, excessive research and experimentation on artificial intelligence is in a practice. At present, artificial intelligence is being used in the phases related to the business and its related chain to make the consumer aware and to increase his interest and the force so that the consumer brand is concerned about the product and the ads related to it are displayed. On popular social media applications such as Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, these are the main, you can say the big social media channels that everyone from kid, the youngsters and the elder one, everyone nowadays using the YouTube, Instagram, and the Facebook. Consumers see different type of a product advertised every minute, every second, and consumer purchase that product for the consumption. In this way, the large productive industries get benefited and companies associated with the social media also get benefits. In the present day, consumerist culture, this artificial intelligence is like a boon which provide benefits to the producer in various ways. So the study of this particular paper aims to explore various promotional strategies used by marketing professionals using social media and the artificial intelligence. So its introduction. So it's a very one-liner introduction about the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is the science of making machines smart. Artificial intelligence is a simulation of a human intelligence. Same has demonstrated by the machines without involving any consciousness and emotionality. Means the module that we are preparing, the machine learning, the robots, or any such kind of a technology that is using the artificial is the replica of a human mind or a human intelligence without the consciousness and the emotionality in it. It like the natural language processing, speech recognition, 3D body scanners for the body measurements, fat compositions, muscle weights, and the machine visions. To make the sense of a big data, AI deals with the two different type of input data. Basically, when we are applying the artificial intelligence on the social media to get information about the consumers, or the companies are basically using the information of the consumers to just promote their products, there are two sets of data they need to be collected and they need to be sensed. There are structured data and the unstructured data. Structured data, we all know about it. It is a basic traditional standardized data set, such as a basic computers, demographic, transactions records, or a web browsing histories. But when we talk about unstructured data is a very complex data, and it's about 80% of approx 2.5 billion gigabytes of daily users generated data are unstructured. And it provides written text, speech, images, etc. And now the AI, the artificial intelligence, has the ability to process such kind of a large volume data and to do very quickly. And that is a Google Analytics, automation platforms, content management systems, and CRMs. Now I'll just switch to the advertising media and how this artificial intelligence is connected with the advertised media. Advertising media are the device by which through the advertising messages are transmitted by the advertisers to the prospective and the existing customers. Social media is becoming the new platform to communicate with our near and dear in various ways, where AI play a very important role to collect and create the channel for our information as well as giving the place for the new emerging business to the platform of digital advertisement. Like on the Facebook, there is a new portal of a marketplace. The people are using that marketplace for their selling and purchasing of the product. It start from any craft, it start from any art, and it's can be the car, it can be the home nowadays, and the property dealing. These all things happening on the Facebook itself in the marketplace module of the Facebook. Then Twitter is also using the artificial intelligence technology, where it's this artificial intelligence technology will suggest the replies while commenting on or tweeting on the Twitter. Instagram, it's a part of nowadays, it's part of the Facebook, and it's again use the visuals to just carry forward the information of the customers. Now, LinkedIn is basically using for the job profiles, and again, by putting our own profile, whatever the profile that we are putting on the LinkedIn, LinkedIn will provide us the job opportunity or likes or sharing or the following pages. They are just suggesting us the job opening around the us. Now, the contribution of artificial intelligence in promotional advertising on social media. As social media platform flooded with innumerable user and information every second. And this artificial intelligence, social networking companies are analyzing voluminous data to find out what's trending, different hashtags and pattern in a very single minute and now 1 hour. They are doing like such kind of exercise. And this analysis helps in understanding user behaviors. Artificial intelligence powered tools helps consumer to investigate new brands on social media, profiles, and visitors. This data can further help to know global brand equity, recognize new trends, target new audience based on their interest, and identify new ways of social media promotions. Advertisement based on the behavior targeting and the demographic. Nowadays, the advertising or the promotional advertising that is found by the advertisers is based on the consumer behavior and their demographic reasons. Now, artificial intelligence can also help to predict market growth and make the ad strategies according to the customer need and taste. Now, the attributes of artificial intelligence in advertisement promotion on social media. There are several new attributes of intelligent advertising are evident from the analysis of these AI-powered tools. Like just like as a patient share physical conditions with the physicians, user nowadays allow the trusted apps to collect their data, and in return, the app uses the data to better serve the users. It helps in a lot of social media apps we are doing or might be during a shopping, this particular things is right now going on. So there are a few attributes. They are basically make this advertisement intelligent. The number one is the natural language processing. When I talk about the natural language processing, is basically analyze the human language to drive meaning from among other blog entries, product reviews, and the billets. And one of the example of a natural language processing is like there is a one Sweden bank. They have created a portal where the customers are just directly calling them. There is a no customer care overhead. There are a set of question and answers over there, or a set of information that they have collected from the past history to be interacted with the customer. They have created that such kind of a portal. In fact, a very basic or a daily life example of this natural language processing in the milk basket or a big basket. whenever we have any kind of a doubt related to our delivery or our order, they have created such kind of this portal of a customer care, and we are just keeping on putting like the order is delivered or it is damaged or something like this, and we getting all the answers with the help of this artificial intelligence of the attribute of this natural language processing. Image recognition. Image recognition helps the advertisers understand pictures and videos that people share on social media and show true consumer behavior. Like when a celebrity shows any photo about unidentified product or an unidentified image of a place, that this particular image recognition tool will recognize the celebrity and the product and the image and just tag the self and show on the social media portals. Next is the speech recognition. Again, the speech recognition is analyzing the meaning of a spoken words. It's just like the Siri that we are just commanding Siri or Alexa. They are just recognizing our speeches, and they are just whatever we are expected from them to play on music, to ask information, to calling. That is something that is the speech recognition. Problem solving and the reasoning. Problem solving and reasoning is a basic attribute that is basically using in the. I have an example that is of the apparel industry. Actually, in this particularly, there are such kind of a big 5 personality tracks they are doing during this particular module, like openness, consciousness, extraversion, agreeable, and the neuroticism. So these are the.
Sorry to interrupt you. You have to wind up.
Oh,
it's been more than 8 minutes.
Thank you.
Please conclude.
Okay, I'll just. The main thing that is I have kept in my presentation, that is a data privacy in the artificial intelligence age. The data privacy is a very important factor, and that is a very important element actually during using this artificial intelligence advertisement, because due to this particular data privacy and not to secure the data of the consumers, there are a lot of rising in the cyber crimes around the world. And these cyber crimes are just to be used the unauthentic data or the just without any confirmation, the data of the personal data of the consumers has been used, and that we need to be work on, and that particular privacy of data has to be put in the list of this artificial intelligence module formation. By concluding of a presentation, like the artificial intelligence has shifted the way advertisement understand and guide consumers. In the future, new ways of a consumer-generated data mining will drive consumer insight, and AI will become the ultimate test for privacy. With the help of machine learning, advertisers will be able to collect consumer data from many sources, imperceptibly combine those data and mine them to deliver on the spot consumer insight, and the advertiser then can use these insights to communicate actively back to the consumer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Sapna. Dr. Sapna.
Yeah.
Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Sapna, for the presentation. I know because earlier itself, Tinam did give you a kind of an intimation that the presentation has to be kept between 5 to 8 minutes. I know you people have put in a lot of effort, and I know the kind of presentation, whenever you do a presentation, you'll have a lot of things to be told. But as far as possible, try to keep it as brief as possible. Come to the topic, come to the objectives of your study, the kind of methodologies, what you have done, and the major findings, and also that within 8 to 10 minutes or maximum by 10 minutes, you can wind up everything. My first thing is that it's a very good paper. Can you just elaborate on chatbots?
Now, basically, this artificial intelligence powered chatbots is related to the consumer's chats, consumer reviews, and the messages that the consumer has put during the purchase of any purchase related to their household, related to their apparel, related to their consumptions, or anything. So that is basically they are with the help of this chatbots, that kind of information just kept taking from there, and with that information there is such kind of information will be created at the back of the social media or at the back of the consumer thing, and for the very next time when the consumer will start purchasing with that particular or similar thing, then that purchase or similarity purchase will be reflecting on their social media sites or on their portals where they are purchasing.
Okay. What kind of impact this user-generated contents have on the product promotion? Can you just tell me with some good case studies? A recent case study where the user-generated content in the social media which has affected the business.
Right now, actually, I cannot recall it.
Okay. For example, this Tanish case.
Yeah, ma'am.
Tanish's case, which was being posted on the thing, and that's how they received a very great number of backlash and all. You must have seen that it was being discussed in the media. They were forced to take back because of the kind of user-generated content, the kind of comments which came for the advertisement. Rather than seeing the creativity part of it, it was into a lot of other kind of things. Okay, so that means the social media has become a platform for the people also to have a kind of a discussions, and also user generated content is also very much important for us. Okay, anyways, very good paper. I think
Thank you,
the
ma'am.
time was the main constraint for you, couldn't do the complete presentation, but anyways, there's always the next time, and thanks for being a part of it.
Thanks a
Okay,
lot, ma'am. Thanks.
thank you, Sapna.
Thank you, Ms. Sapna. Now I call upon the next paper, and the title of his paper is The Rhetorical Effectiveness of Television Advertising with the Reference of Psychographics in Viewers of Kolkata.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Tina ma'am. Good afternoon, Ambari sir. I am the faculty member of Techno India University Film Department. I have done my master's in cinema. And this paper is the part of my PhD paper. Actually, I'm working with the other rhetorical elements of ad film, like short length, color dominance, short scale as well. So in this paper, I have taken the story narrative only. Story narrative is a chain of events that we all know. Successful ad films are a cultural reflection of a society, said by Leisure and Kelly. And this study is about how people of a particular demographic area. I have done my work in Kolkata, in the very core area of Kolkata, that KMCA, Kolkata Municipal Corporation area, to how the people connect the story narrative and how traditionally filmmakers gives importance to the emotions of the regional viewers while developing a concept of the ad films to bridge the gap between the consumers, I mean the viewers in case of my study, and service providers, that means the advertisers or the ad film directors. So the main study is based on to create a create a bridge between the advertisers and the viewer, the receiver. Yes, aims and objectives: the story narrative analysis of the ad films to help the advertisers to point out the viewers' cognitive aspect and interests, to remedy the gap between the advertisers and viewers in terms of story narrative and the television ads. So quickly, I just want to explain the my background study. ISKE model by P. Shimamura in his book Psychocinematics. This particular model helps me a lot for doing my casework, my study. That in this model, Shimamura says that a filmmaker, the idea generates in the brain of a filmmaker, and from that idea, filmmakers make a film, and receivers like viewers receives according to their sensation, knowledge, and emotions. So if we can address the sensation, knowledge, and emotion of the viewers, if we have a study, if we have a proper report about the sensation, knowledge, or emotions with the on the basis of which our audiences or viewers accepts the deny, rejects or accepts a film or ad film or a product. So if we have something, a study, then we can create, or when we just cook the idea about one ad film, then we can create a good ad film, or we can connect. And one thing I would like to add, ad film doesn't mean that it's a promotional for any product or something. It is a promotional for ideas as well, like a government government ideas, or any good proposals. So we can connect a niche people, uh, some kind of. Uh, and the other books that helps me and papers help me, the Chapman, Barry Salt, and the Psychology Entertainment. So I just don't go deep into this. My next slide is gap in the literature, in the research objectives. The gap that I told that previously, that lack of studies in the Kolkata in the effectiveness. I have seen some studies about narrative and non-narrative ad films, the acceptance of narrative and non-narrative ad films. That you all know that narrative ad films are more effective than non-narrative ad films. But this kind of studies, I am not, I have not get any this kind of study on the basis of the narrative or the story narrative structure, on the basis of the viewers of Kolkata, or Kolkata people, or a very niche people. So that's why I take this thing. Then objective of the study to make a bridge, and approach of the study is with the scientific tool and the statistical tool. I would like to yes, methodology, step by step, I would like to say the population size is about 5 lakhs according to the KMC website. Then the sample size has become 385 with the calculation. But I have surveyed 400 plus people, but some of the responses has been trashed. Some people didn't fill the survey paper properly. So I have got around 381 surveys. So what I did during my work, I took 6 ad films from the 2 different companies of same products. I would like to show you the thumbnails of those ad films first. Yes, these are the ad films from Hutch. This is from Airtel. This is from Hutch. This is from Airtel. This is from Hutch again. Sorry, then it has become Vodafone, and this is from Airtel. So chronologically, these 6 ad films I have provided my viewers during the survey. So yes, so 6 ad films. I made a link, and with my survey paper with some questionnaire, I have distributed to my people, and simple in simple random process. I have collected the datas. Then then narrative transcription has been done. All the 6 ad films I have done. I have just transcripted it into the text, and then again second set of survey I have done in a matrix scale. I took the feedback. Interviews of ad filmmakers has been taken in a snowball method, that I just went to one ad filmmaker, asked them about which kind of pre-planning they do for the regional viewers, then asked him to for another, his friend, and so on. So I have taken 10 interviews in this kind. Then interviews of first set of sample size to know the discourse. Firstly, I have provide them. I provide them the survey questionnaires. Then I have interviewed. I ask simply that what is your opinion about the ad films? Why did you reject or like the ad films? And then I draw the conclusion. So I would like to show some datas I have collected. Yes, so ad film 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the way I have presented the ad films. So in overall, this is a male or female percentage. This is almost same. And if I show the pie chart, that will be more easier to understand. The ad number 1, this one, ad number 1, the preferred mostly. Then ad number 2, sorry, ad number 4, this one, people like most. Then people rejected the ad number 5 and 3, these 2. the 3 and the 5. Okay, then I did one thing. This is a male female wise tally, the gender wise tally between the liking and disliking of the ads in percentage. Then I did one thing. I just did the t-test. In case of the null hypothesis, says that there is no gender-wise differences in the preference of the alternative hypothesis. There is a significant difference, and in case of alternative hypothesis, there is a significant difference. So, as the p-value of the t-test has become 0.05, we rejected the alternative hypothesis. So we can say that there is no such differences. So, so people of Kolkata, we can say that. Okay, I'll say that in my conclusion section. Then I have another set of questions that why do you rate the particular ad film as excellent? So 69% people say the story is good, that's why we like the ad film. And 31% people say that the presentation was good. But during the interview session, we got that people are confused. They don't know about, they have no clear idea about the presentation.
What? Mr. Jyotirmoy, you will have to.
Yes, ma'am. Just only this thing, the preference of the ad films, the preference, when I just converted it into when I just transcribed it, so I got this kind of data as preference, and I have got this kind of data when people saw the ad. So grade wise, it differs. So we can say that if the media has changed, the preference has been changed. Then the codes, I have disclosed some codes like this, and from this we can conclude that there is no gender discrimination in case of affinity towards ad film. People like narrative ad films. All the people says that we like narrative story, and everyone says that talk about the story. Text and the visual media play differently. That play differently. So when we strategize things, so we need to make strategy differently for two different things. And if the content if the content connects, then the verbal language merely plays any role. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jyotirmoy. Yes, Sapna ma'am, please ask questions.
Thank you, Mr. Dev, for the presentation. I just want to know, as you have been a researcher and you have been working, there are a lot of students also. Just tell me, what is the snowball method?
Yes, snowball method is when we go when we went for someone to know something. So after the interview, we request the eminent person if he or she has any other connection, if I can go to other people and collect subject related or that particular subject related information from other people. So with the help of that person's connection, so we can go and take the information.
Okay, fine. I just want to know, because you spoke about the story narration, you spoke about the visuals, you spoke about the tune and all. I just want to know, when you had an interaction, apart from having a questionnaire, you distributed the questionnaire.
Yes.
That's how you have taken the opinions of the people. I just want to know the duration of the advertisement. Okay, there are duration of advertisement, which can be 30 seconds, 45 seconds, as well as 1 minute, like 60 seconds. Okay, yes, does this duration, extended duration, has got a lot of impact on the storytelling as well as the impact on the audience?
Yes, ma'am. So interesting question. Actually, when I observe that the short length area, when I have studied the short length area, so I got a interesting result. If the short length, when the short length has increased, so people start disliking that. Okay, so that it not directly related with if it is a 30-second ad, it's a 40-second ad. So that extra 10-second doesn't affect. But if the short length, a single short length, if my average short length has become 5 seconds, or if my average short length is 1.5 seconds, so people like the shorter short length ad film, because the attention span has become shorter right now for the social media and the other.
Okay, so that you mean to say that lesser the duration, it is difficult for the storytelling also, but it has got a huge impact rather than
Exactly.
dragging it for more than 45 to 60 seconds.
Yes,
is
ma'am.
it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Mr. Dev. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dev, I also have one more question for you.
Yes, sure.
So this is from one of the participants actually. So what are some of the emotional appeals that help in better recall of these ads?
Yes,
Can you-
yes. Question is small, the answer is long. There are a lot of emotional recalls. One is local or demographic color, demographic. Actually, I'm taking help my original papers to give the answer. The demographic color, the demographic rituals, the demographic sound, and the demographic fables as well. If we, and the culture as well, to address a niche people or if we, when I showed the one ad film which is the backdrop or premise is Europe, so people directly rejected that. But this is not 100 all the time, this is not true. But in another ad, when I showed them the backdrop is Middle East, not a single word they can understand, but the emotional connect. So people goes with the emotional connect. But if we take the emotional connects from the regional or the local, from the local issues, local cultural issues, milieu, if we address the milieu, so then the we can get the positive result.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dev.
Thank you, ma'am.
So Dr. Sapna,
Now we'll go with the next presentation, maybe after that time.
right, okay. So next we have our student here, Ms. Yashika Agarwal. Her paper is titled Communication and Representational Trends in Condom Television Commercials, a Study of Indian Brands.
Greetings of the day. I'm Yashika Agarwal, a student of Delhi Metropolitan Education, and I'm here to present my research work on communication and representational trends in condom television commercials, a study of Indian brands. So starting with introduction. So as we all know, condoms continue to influence the thinking pattern and subconscious minds of the audience. They fetch an audience for an idea, product, or service that impacts the perspective of the audience fundamentally. In this process, these advertisements use diverse approaches that can be interpreted in numerous ways, communicating multiple social perspectives. Condom advertisements are no exception. So one might raise the question, why did I take condom advertisements only? So while reviewing the literature, it was found that condom advertisements per se have not been analyzed in the Indian diaspora. Citing one research paper by Dasgupta SN Jain P of 2019, only this research paper could be found which analyzed Indian condom advertisements and highlighted the various metaphors that are used in the process of making. So coming to the objectives. So first objective was to identify the approaches and concepts employed. So while analyzing these advertisements, it was identified that, yes, this is the approach that has been utilized and this is the concept that has been applied. Second is to examine the underlying context, to examine the context of the storyline, of the representations that have been done, to find the social and sexual representations. So there were various metaphors that were used, and to find their social and sexual representation was one of the objectives. The last and the foremost objective was to find the segmentation of the target audience based on sexual orientation. One might find this objective very weird, but this was one of the objective after reviewing the literature, as it was found that majority of the research paper did not take in account the sexual orientation of the audience they were targeting or using in the advertisement. So they did not see that was this audience heterosexual or homosexual while reviewing the advertisement. So research design, a detailed content analysis was done. It's a qualitative study. So these are various steps which I undertook while I was researching. So first was to add finding samples, which I found through YouTube. I identified and downloaded the ads. Second was reviewing them. So as this is a qualitative study, as a researcher, I was the mail tool, and I watched the advertisements multiple times to gather the context and what the advertisement is trying to tell. Next was synopsis. So a person who's reading my research paper might not be knowing about the advertisement. So it was my duty to draft a basic plot and storyline of the advertisement. Next was analysis. So after drafting a synopsis or a basic draft of the advertisement, I analyzed it on the basis of some parameters which were set. I'll be discussing them in the later part. Conclusion. So on the basis of these advertisements, their analysis and the gaps which were created by the previous studies, a conclusion was made. Now, brands analyzed. So I took 3 brands: Manforce condoms, Durex condoms, and Score condoms. So the reason for taking these 3 brands were based on the previous studies. They had the highest market share and availability of advertisements. So the years that I have taken are 2018, 2019, 2020. Now these years have been taken with respect so that they can reflect the current scenario and the situation that precedes right now. Each ad, one ad from 2018, one ad from 2019, and one ad from 2020 is taken. So in total, 9 advertisements have been analyzed. Next, coming to the parameters of the analysis, as I discussed before, there were 3 parameters. So these 3 parameters were taken by me after reviewing the literature and finding the gaps. So these 3 things were not analyzed in the respect of Indian brands. So first was limelight to the product use of maintaining sexual health. Here, the main thing which was in focus was, does the advertisement provide any limelight to the product use of preventing pregnancy or sexually transmitted diseases? The second was inculcation of gender stereotypes. Advertisements have been reinforcing gender roles, gender stereotypes from a very large amount of time, but not just inculcation of gender stereotypes, but also gender biases, sexual objectification, and various concepts that revolve around the same concept were analyzed. Third and the last, as I mentioned earlier, sexual orientation depicted in the TVC. The sexual orientation of the pair that has been depicted in the television commercial was also analyzed, and so to know the target audience of the advertisement. So coming to the findings and observations. So first observation was 2 out of 9 advertisements mentioned about the product use of maintaining sexual health. Only 2 out of the total 9 advertisements, they mentioned about the product use, how they maintain sexual health, either by preventing pregnancy or sexually transmitted diseases. 7 out of 9 advertisements reinforce gender stereotypes and display women objectification. So citing John Nair, 1988, they state that the difference between an objectified woman and an empowered woman is in the gaze. Okay, so keeping the gaze in mind, keeping how objectification has taken place in the and has been analyzed in the previous study. So that was again analyzed, and we could find that 7 out of 9 advertisements did objectify women and reinforce gender stereotypes. Factors like hypermasculinity, male gaze, and female submissive nature were observed in 5 out of 9 advertisements. I would like to explain here what basic observations I had just in 2 lines. There were instances where the female was seen giving gestures to seduce the male counterpart, whereas the other way around could not be seen. 8 out of 9 commercials targeted heterosexual audience, while in 1 advertisement, the sexual orientation of the target audience remains ambiguous. So here we can see how they are the major chunk of the audience that they are targeting remains heterosexual only. In the 1 advertisement that the target audience was ambiguous. Coming to the conclusion. The first is the advertisements show a domination of use of sexual appeal that yields a negligible mention about the use of a condom to prevent pregnancy or HIV or AIDS, that's sexual transmitted diseases. Second, reinforcement of gender roles, gender-based biases, and objectification was observed. So there are instances in the advertisements where, there are of the women shown, their legs, their hair, shown in a way that they are reduced to the major status of an object to grab the attention. So that's what that could be observed. Like such homosexual segment of the audience is neglected intensively. So as we can see that the major part of the target audience was heterosexual. So what's the future scope of these studies? With these conclusions, we can see that, okay, so the advertisements, they are not showing that the sexual health needs to be maintained by a product like a condom, or, you know, the gender-based stereotypes are inculcating. So the future scope of these studies can be to study the impact created by these advertisements on the audience through primary research conducted from surveys as well as expert interviews. So in the future scope of the study, we might know through surveys or through interviews that what is the impact that is created on the mind of the audience after they see such advertisements, or what is the impact on the sexual health of the country as a whole. So that's all from my side. Thank you. Any further questions?
Thank you so much, Yashika. And I feel that was quite an interesting topic and very lucidly presented and completed on time. Thank you so much. Dr. Sapna.
Thank you, Yashika. I'm sorry, as I had a call. So the thing is, I can understand because the kind of topic what you have chosen is completely a taboo kind of a thing. And as you told that even there are no much of the research when it comes to the Indian context, hardly I could find only 1 or 2 papers. But anyways, it's a good study and it also requires a lot of kind of an openness to do this kind of a study, but it is an integral part because it has got a lot of effect also. My question is, I just wanted to know, because when you spoke about this 3 kind of condoms company what you have used, what was the importance of brand ambassadors of this? Because as far as my knowledge goes, it was about Manfords where they used Sunny Leone. Okay, so when you compare to the other kind of thing, what was the kind of brand ambassadors they used? That is also one of the important things because it has got a more impact on the audience and the customers when they buy these kind of products. And you also spoke about, there was one particular advertisement which was which dealt with ambiguity. Which was that advertisement? Yeah, these 2 questions. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am, for the question. So first, dealing with the first one, like you mentioned about Sunny Leone. So Manforce Condoms is a brand which usually endorses Sunny Leone. So yeah, so there are various brands that endorse various celebrities. But if you look at a celebrity like Sunny Leone, obviously the sex appeal which they are using, it multiplies in the eyes of the audience also. She's already seen as someone, for whom the sex appeal multiplies. So yes, a person might be much more into buying a product which is endorsed by a celebrity like Sunny Leone, but other celebrities like Vikrant Messi, he was used in a Durex condom ad. Ranveer Singh has been used in Durex condom ads. For these celebrities, the sexual appeal is comparatively less, yes, but that obviously needs future studies and the impact it creates on the people to know about how much difference it can make. Coming to your second question, sorry, ma'am, can you repeat the second question?
The ambiguity told me that out of the 1 remained ambiguous.
In 2018, there was this advertisement of Score condom. So what they did was, it was a very wise advertisement. It was 15 seconds advertisement, and it was on TV. So there is this white screen, and then the one condom comes, and they say it's in the red box. They say that the temperature is heating up. The screen blacks, then a blue colored condom comes. They say the temperature is cooling down with our condoms, and then Score condom box comes, the screen blacks again. So they haven't shown that which is the target audience or anything there. The target audience remains ambiguous. They have shown their message that what is the condom doing with the pleasure? Because of the pleasure, the temperature is coming down, because the effect of the condom is that it cools down the couple who is using it. So they're the target audience.
Okay, thank you, Yashika. I would just like to make an announcement, Thinam. I have got an emergency call from the Vice Chancellor's office that I need to be there. So if you can just permit me, because we have an act visit next month. So I'm a part of the committee, and I don't know, there is an urgent meeting which has been convened. So everybody has to make it. So if Ambrish sir gives me permission, I would like to move. It was an uncalled, it was an unplanned one, because I wanted to stay back and listen to these young minds as well as young researchers. But I'm extremely sorry for the inconvenience. I think Thinam can take over from right now, and I wish all the best for the other researchers also. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am, so much.
Thank you.
Yashika, I have one more question for you, actually. So, can you tell me some of the differences in the narratives of condom advertisements of commercial brands and public service advertisements?
Sorry, ma'am, your voice was breaking. Difference between the narratives of commercial brands and
Public service ads.
yeah, sure. Ma'am. Thank you for your question, ma'am. So, commercial brands and public service advertisements, there is a very major difference in the use of appeal that they use. So, there was this advertisement in 2002. It was a public service advertisement. So, it was based on normalization of the use of the word condom. So, it is used as a taboo. So, it was like a lady, she finds a condom, and she's like and a keychain with that condom. So the other person comes and is very scared that, oh, she has found my condom, what will she say? But she says, how many times I've told you to not leave your keychains here? So she's like, the other thing, she's like, ha, the condom hi to hai. So it's like they are trying to break the taboo. They are trying to tell you about, how much you should use them. Whereas if we come to the narrative and appeals used in the commercial advertisements, they as even my study shows that most of them, there is a domination of the use of sexual appeal. So they use sexual appeals, they endorse such celebrities that use sexual appeal, and for by that they sell their products. So yeah, that is the major difference which could be observed.
Thank you. Beautifully explained. Thank you, Yashika. Wish you all the best. We will now move on to the next presentation. We have a joint paper by Sabya Sinhal, Soumya Yadav, and Sonali Srivastava from National Institute of Fashion Technology, Bhubaneswar. Ms. Soumya Yadav will be presenting the paper. The title is Film Controversies and Marketing Strategies, an Exploration of Audience Behavior and Viewers' Choices.
Good afternoon, co-chair and respected dignitaries. I am Soumya Yadav, and I'm here with my co-author, Sabya Singhal, and we're going to present our paper on the topic Impact of Film Controversy. So, cinema has been a long celebrated source of entertainment for the young and old alike in India, but alongside its primary purpose, film is also, so sometimes it leads to negative publicity, while other times these controversies are deliberately generated to grab eyeballs and boost revenues. This study is aimed to ascertain the impact of movie controversies on viewership choices. Two variables are movie controversy and viewership, independent and dependent, respectively. The objectives of our paper are to find out if the audience chooses to watch a movie based on this controversy, to find out if the audience spends money to watch the movie in a theater, and if the audience is affected by the movie.
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so while we started our research, we started with the hypothesis that film controversies play a major role in decision making by the audience while choosing what film to watch. Okay, so our method is completely survey based. So we did our primary research while circulating a questionnaire. The questions were mainly close-ended questions with answering options differing from yes/no type to rating and scaling. We had similar questions in our questionnaire to check the responses of respondents and eliminate the chances of false answers. Secondary data involves data available online and from previous research papers.
Coming up to the observations, since our study aims to find out if the audience chooses a movie based on its controversy, we found out that out of 114 samples, 18.4% of the respondents consider controversy among their top 3 preferences while choosing to watch a movie, which is a small percentage. When asked if they've ever seen a movie after the controversy, 63.2% of the responses of people say that they have watched a movie after this controversy, which means that controversies do have a considerable impact on the viewers. When asked if the audience spends money to watch the movie, if they watched in a theater, 37.1% of the audience chose to spend money on these movies. And if we scale this percentage up to the entire movie-going population, we can say that controversial movies definitely have an impact on viewership choices. When asked if the audience is affected by the movie, 50.9% of the responses indicate that the audience is not affected by the controversy, whereas 18.4% are affected. For people saying maybe it is possible that they could be affected subconsciously. To find out if the controversies are a form of advertisement and free promotion, we asked if controversial movies excite them, to which 78.1% of the respondents agreed that movie controversies do excite them. movie like Padmavat, Padmavat being one of the most controversial movies in the history of Indian cinema, despite not being released in some of the states, still manages to be 10th highest grossing Indian film of all time with a collection of over 585 crore, which proves that the controversial content of the movie acted as free promotion and advertisement indirectly for the film. When asked who do they think create the controversy, 22.8% of the respondents said filmmakers, which proves that audiences aware of controversies being a form of advertisement. When asked if the movie makers choose controversial topics on purpose, 82.4 people agreed. And a lot of respondents also agreed that it is a form of free promotion, the controversy. When asked what did they base their decision on while watching the movie, they rated trailer, word of mouth, hype, and critic reviews way above controversies, which is another important observation that yielded from our research that word of mouth and critic reviews impact audience viewership more than controversies do.
After observing all these observations and analyzing our data, we found multiple observations. In comparison to trailer, critic reviews, and word of mouth, controversies are not the audience first preference while choosing a film. When we asked that where these people actually watch the movies, so most of them said that theaters, OTT platforms, and televisions, which implies that these all contribute to the box office collection, and ultimately controversial movies are a huge success because of these. A vast majority of sample is not affected by a controversial movie, yet are excited when a controversy comes out, implying that it somewhat draws attention towards the film. When we ask that if these movies excite the audience, 21.1% of the sample marked yes. When we asked if these movies affect them, only 18.4% marks yes. And on the other hand, when we asked that if they actually watched a movie, 63.2% said yes. The study also reveals that the audience is quite aware of controversial movies used as a means of free promotion by movie makers. Among 7.89% of the total respondents who watch movies biannually, 77.7% of them are affected by controversy and have seen movies after controversies. This implies that controversies largely draws audiences' attention towards watching a movie. Individual responses show that people might not be affected by the controversies, but have seen movies after their controversies. Other factors might have been a reason to watch a particular film, but them remembering exactly which film they see shows that controversies grabs audience attention towards a movie.
Coming to the conclusion, our first objective was to find out if the audience chooses to watch a movie based on its controversy, and it was fulfilled since the controversial movie does grab a lot of attention, despite the viewers having other criteria for watching a movie. The second objective was to find out the audience spends money, which was also fulfilled since people do go to theaters. And other than that, we can also include television selling rights after box office collection, which also includes in the money-making process. We can also include OTT platforms, since it is people watch movies a lot there. The study also aimed to find out if the audience is affected by the movie. We found out that the audience is not personally affected, but do react to the hype from the controversy.
The hypothesis has been proven to be valid since most of the respondents prefer trailer, word of mouth, and critic review above controversies as a deciding factor. This is further backed by the review of literature, which indicates that word of mouth is the most influential factor in determining audience viewership. All the objectives have been fulfilled through online surveys. The research holds further scope with the results having interesting implications for viral marketing campaigns to maximize box office sales. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sabya and Soumya. I would like to ask you that, like you mentioned, it is the controversies that lead people to go and watch the movie. But do you also think that these controversies have anything to do with the final, review or the, the result of the success of the movie itself?
The content of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, say they can have a lot of negative or negative publicity or any kind of publicity, and then people go and watch the movie. But does it impact the actual content of the movie? Like, you know,
Of course,
what
ma'am.
yeah, people can drive to watch the movie, but what about the end result?
Result. Every film has a considerable impact. We all know that films and movies in this age have a lot of impact on youngsters, youth, of all age groups, in fact. So it is very much possible that after even they're watching a movie, by knowing that it's a controversy, but when they do go to watch the movie, obviously the controversy does impact them, does change their thought processes a bit. They not force them, but lead them into changing their mind, how their mind works, how they think about certain things in the society. So controversies do help in the final result.
Can you quote any examples of movies where, despite controversies, the movie were ultimately not well accepted by the audiences?
Mostly, majority of the movies have been accepted. I can't recall. I think there was this movie Black Friday by Anurag Kashyap, but it took a long time to come out. And I think it was not taken very positively. I mean, it is obviously made by Anurag Kashyap, but it was not taken very positively since it was based on the Mumbai bomb blasts. So different people have different connotations of how they take a movie. So not everybody can get a positive response from a certain movie.
Amrish sir, any questions from your end?
Yeah, I wanted to ask what exactly is meant by controversy? Have you explained this in your research?
No, sir. We haven't really explained this in our research, but we are trying to point out the hype which is created. For example, if we take the example of the movie Padmavat, there was a rage in few states, for example, Rajasthan and Haryana. There were a group of people who came against, and the movie couldn't be released in few states. So what we are actually trying to talk about is controversies could be created by anyone. It could be media, it could be political interference. For example, when the accidental prime minister came, or when the movie
Surgical
Uri,
strike.
which Uri, the surgical strike, which came. So these two movies came during the times of election. So these two movies also had to face a lot of political interference, which led to controversies. And then obviously media interference creates a hype. So it is controversies is news related.
You did not answer my question. See, whenever we do a research, any kind of research, we have to be very clear about the work that we are doing. We have to be very clear whichever terms, words we are using in our topic. So everything has to be answered, and then the researcher has to have a clarity on this. You are using the word controversy, but you are not clear what is meant by controversy, and you are substituting controversy word by other words while you are explaining. You said there was a rage and all, there was political controversy. So if there is a political controversy, there could be a social controversy, there could be a cultural controversy. And then what exactly the meaning according to you, as per your research, that you decided that this is a controversy? I mean, if there is a protest on the street, that might be a controversy, or that might be part of the controversy. If the film is not allowed to be screened, that could be a controversy. So you have to define. That is what research is.
Yes,
In
sir.
research, you have to be very clear on this.
So it could be the disagreement by masses. Disagreement by masses for a particular
What is
content.
masses? Masses means what?
The viewer, the audience
The
of the
viewers,
movie,
the audience.
general public.
See, in research, you are the researchers, you are students or what?
Yes, sir, we are
Students.
students.
Yeah. So in research, you have to be very clear when you are using the term masses, when you are using the term audience. Every word has different connotations. So for your research, which word you are using, in what sense you are using, you have to have absolute clarity on this. And when I was looking into your data, there were answers in favor of this question that, I mean, many people prefer watching a film affected by the controversy. What was that percentage?
Sorry, sir.
What was the percentage of the people?
So what exactly you're asking? Like the percentage of which?
The people who were guided by the controversy and then they decided to watch a film.
Okay,
Just
the
a second,
people
sir.
who watch movies biannually.
By?
Just a second. Biannually.
Biannually.
I was asking the percentage of the people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
63.2%.
Okay. So how did you select your population for the survey?
Ma'am, we sent it to then we circulated it online because of the pandemic we couldn't go out, so we chose snowball sampling. It was convenient for us. So what we questionnaire to whoever we were able to contact, and then we asked them to circulate it further. So that's how we could gather data from a lot of different cities, a lot of different states of India.
No, but you have to be clear. From which states you had planned to collect the data? From which states actually you collected the data? That helps in generalization. Because if there are only 2 or 3 states data you have collected, then you cannot generalize it for the entire country. And then also to whosoever you sent your questionnaire and they got it filtered, you have to be clear which age group.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Our
17 to
age group was
23.
17 to 23.
Okay, and which states you covered?
So we covered most responses we received were from Jharkhand, Delhi, Haryana, Bengaluru, Rajasthan, Odisha, Uttarakhand, and there were few other cities as well. But these were the responses which we received in most numbers.
Yeah, but then you conducted this study in the backdrop of Hindi films.
Indian cinema, sir.
Yes, sir. We had to limit ourselves.
But then you collected your data from Hindi speaking states as well as non-Hindi speaking states. And then you merged the total data. So how?
Yes, sir, but
Indian cinema is consumed by all.
No, not in the same proportion.
Okay, so we'll keep that in mind while writing the final draft.
I mean, in research, these things are very, very important. So you have to do always such kind of factors while you are planning a study.
Yes, sir. Definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sabya and Soumya.
Thank you, ma'am.
I understand both of young students, and there's a long way for you to go. So all the best for all your future research endeavors. So we have Yukta Prakash, who's a student of DME Media School, and her topic is a study of consumers' buying behavior towards apparel brands.
Hi, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am. And it's an honor to present my paper. I'm not a research student, first of all, and I know there will be a lot of mistakes and I'm still learning. And this was one of the projects which I want to take up in the future as well, and briefly study the loopholes which are left in this project. So the title of my project is Consumer Buying Behavior Towards the Apparel Brands, Advertisements and Their Effects on Consumers. So apparel brand is a very diverse industry and a very different industry. Unlike FMCG, where advertisements have a very direct impact on the minds of the people, advertisement does not have a very direct impact on the minds of the people, and the decision-making criteria differ diversely. And we have seen in this particular research how the consumers decide what to buy and what are the perspectives they look into while buying a particular product or choose a particular brand for an apparel. And the further study we have done to analyze what are the effects of advertisement in the minds of the people.
So the objectives were to analyze the decision-making criteria of consumer while choosing an apparel brand for purchase. And the second was to study the relationship between advertisements and consumer buying behavior. So we took a sample size of 100, and it was a non-probability sampling style. Also, a questionnaire or survey method was used to analyze this particular research. So the questions like mode of shopping was asked, where we got to know that most of the respondents prefer offline shopping than online shopping. And it is surprising that even after COVID, the consumers are willing to shop offline because they know the importance of offline shopping, and the preferences while purchasing an apparel was asked, where we got to know that quality and material, comfort and fit plays a very, very important role in the minds of the consumers while purchasing an apparel. Shopping intervals was counted, and it was asked, do advertisements influence your decision making and buying habits? Secondly, to find out how advertisements impact their buying perspective or buying behavior, it was asked that, do you get exposed to different brands through advertisements? Do advertisements convince you to buy a particular product, and do advertisements motivate you to shift from one brand to another? I will further briefly analyze all these data in the findings and conclusion part. Do the influences of celebrities endorsing, because we have seen that apparel brands is one of the brands where influencers and celebrities are showcased maximum number of times. And lastly, it was asked, do you think advertisements help in retaining the brand name and brand image? So here are the findings and conclusions. Relationship between the modes of shopping and buying preferences. It was seen that most of the respondents do prefer offline shopping, and it can also be justified because in offline shopping you can choose the quality and material you require, and comfort and fit you can try, and if you don't like, you can just dump it out. So quality and material and comfort and fit was the highly preferred preferences for the consumers, and it can be supported by the preference mode of shopping. The second was the needs and wants of the consumers. So as we know, Maslow's hierarchy law of physiological and psychological needs, the preferences like quality and material and comfort and fit, including price also, are the needs of the consumers, and the design, brand name and trendiness are the wants of the consumers. Like if I want to buy, or if I want to wear an apparel, I probably choose quality and material. Every one of us should probably choose quality and material and comfort and fit because it's our need. When we have to glamorize the apparels we are wearing, or when we have to showcase what brands we are wearing, then probably we shift our preferences to design, brand name, trendiness, etc. The second observation was influence of offers and discounts. Advertisers and marketers usually have this notion that a 50% sale or offers or festive sales woo the consumers or attract them to buy from their particular brand, but it is not really observed so, because this indicates that the buying behavior of the consumer generally does not get affected by these promotional factors such as offers and sales, because they usually buy once in a month or twice in a month, and they bulk buy their apparels. Lastly, it was asked influence of advertisements. Yes, most of the respondents do get influenced by the advertisement, but how do they get influenced is the next section of our research. So brand awareness and advertisements help the brands to create an indirect impact in the minds of the consumers. If I see a product, if I see an advertisement, it just stays imprinted in my mind, and whenever I go out to shop for my apparel, and if I don't like that product, I probably shift to another product or a brand because I saw that advertisement. Advertisements and buying behavior. It was seen that advertisements do not have a direct impact in the minds of the people, and it does not convince the consumer to shift from one product to another or one brand to another just overnight because they saw an advertisement. If I am loyal to a particular brand, I will stay loyal to a particular brand unless and until I don't find that my preferences fulfilled in that brand. And their advertisements play a role because there they influence and they impact the minds of the consumer. Influencer market and its effect. So we have seen that Manyavar is known for the brand identity, which brand endorsement, celebrity endorsement, which they have by Virat Kohli and Anushka Sharma. Manyavar is known for Virat Kohli and Anushka Sharma's face, and similarly goes with FBB, where Shikhar Dhawan promotes their brand. But it is also seen that influencer marketing does not really impact much of their buying behavior, because if I go to a brand, I'll probably select the quality and material and not just buy a product because I have seen Virat Kohli and Anushka Sharma in the advertisement. So yes, advertisement do create a psychological impact in the minds of the people, because they just create an identity and image that yes, this brand exists, and newer brands use advertisements for their promotion and creating an identity in the minds of the consumers. But it does not play a very direct role in the buying behavior, and consumers are very loyal to their apparel selection brands. So this was all for my study. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yukta. That was quite an interesting study. I want to ask you this: that, like you said, apparel brands advertise, and so do e-commerce brands, or like this offline shopping outlets as well.
Right.
So, which one do you think has more impact on the audience?
Okay. It's a very sorry. Did I interrupt the question?
No. Continue. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this question. It's very interesting to see that when you're seeing an online brand, the advertisements are usually online based. You see Myntra, Flipkart advertisements on Facebook. You see it on Instagram. You see it on mostly television also you can see, but usually Google advertisements, YouTube and everything. So the consumers who are mostly exposed to online mode get more influence through online advertisements. Like if I talk about the generation of my parents, they are not usually more inclined towards online shopping or online brand. They are usually, like, due to COVID, they have shifted because there was no option. But even today, if you ask them, they will prefer offline shopping. And offline shopping, if you prefer, then this research works. When we talk about online youth who are more exposed to online mode, so yes, there the advertisement play a role, but again, the reviews play a very important part. Like in Myntra or in Flipkart, the review system is very important, and it actually plays a role of the quality and material which you are using. You tend to believe the reviewers that yes, they have used and the reviews are legit. So I guess even there partially this research works, because the quality and material, comfort and fit are seen there as well.
Okay, so according to you, the advertisements of Flipkart or Myntra works equally as much as the brand of the apparel works. So say the same brand, it may be available on Flipkart also, it may be available on Myntra also. But
right,
depending on which e-commerce site you prefer more.
Right,
so
right.
Your preference will also differ. Yeah.
Exactly. If like I am purchasing a apparel from Biba, and I have seen their advertisement on Myntra as well and on Flipkart as well, but I know the customer service of Flipkart is not better than Myntra, so I probably choose Myntra. That's a tier 2 kind of purchasing thing.
Okay, Yukta, we have one or two questions for you from participants. Do you feel e-commerce leads to more impulsive buying?
Impulsive buying, yes, you can say, because you have plenty of hours to spend online, and when you go to shopping mall, you have to touch the product, you see whether the quality is good or bad, and then you take a decision. But in online, you are like you are getting thousands of products in a single screen, and thus yes, definitely impulsive buying can be seen in online shopping or e-commerce platforms.
So how many times has it happened that, you know, by seeing an ad, you suddenly feel the need to buy a new dress?
Every month. Every month this happens. You just have to restrict yourself and your preferences intact. So yeah.
One more question is that in your research, have you found e-commerce websites using subliminal advertising?
Not, I'm not sure if I'll be able to answer this question. So I'll not have it.
Okay. Amrish sir?
What actually you were trying to find out, and what exactly is the outcome, whether whatever you were trying to find out, whether you achieved that?
Okay, so basically I was more interested in finding out what the marketers and advertisers look forward when they are promoting a particular product or particular brand. Like if I am a marketing executive of Pantaloons, so what all things I keep in mind while marketing my products and marketing my apparels. So I wanted to see whether advertisements, which is mostly seen in the FMCG sector usually, and it actually works in FMCG sectors, but I wanted to see whether it actually works directly to influence the consumers in the apparel industry or not. Secondly, I wanted to see if I wanted to market, if I wanted to create a marketing strategy for a particular apparel brand. So what things should I keep in mind, and how can I attract the consumers? So this was kind of a market research, which I definitely further studied. So yeah.
So you collected data from cross sections or only young people, whether any age bracket in the of the
The
response?
age, yes, the age bracket was 18 to 25, and it was also distinguished between financially dependent category and financially independent category.
So both the data would have been different or the same?
Not much of a difference was seen, maybe because the sample size was restricted to 100. But if the sample size is increased, I guess the financially dependent and financially independent data will also differ because the price bracket will change and the preferences will considerably change.
So are you satisfied with the result that you have got after completing this
No, definitely so not, sir. Sir, this is just a beginning, and I guess I will further do more research, a brief research about this in future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Yukta. And I believe our last presenter, Purvi, has joined us. Purvi is from Indian Institute of Mass Communication, New Delhi, and she's going to present on content on OTT platforms, a study of Indian web series.
So my topic for my research study is content on OTT platforms, a study of Indian web series. So the research objective was to understand the audience's perception of OTT content and to study their also understand whether the web series content should be regulated or not. And for the purpose of study, around 170 people were surveyed, and the study was both qualitative and quantitative in nature. A content analysis of 2 OTT-based web series, Tandav and Mirzapur, was done on the basis of their popularity and recent controversies surrounding them. The parameters were for the contents analysis was selected on 2 bases, one on the basis of the medium and on other usage, the popularity of the medium, the target audience of the medium, and the milieu. Whereas for the content, the specifications were the plot, the characterization, the semiotics, target groups, and the categorical highlights, whether there was references to some religion, minority, or community. For the literature review, one of the studies said that since the OTT industry is a self-regulatory one and the content has been on a rise, So the content that is shown is aggressive and is unacceptable for youngsters. So it needs to be regulated. Whereas the other one said that there needs to be a balance between the censorship of a platform while also maintaining the dignity and anonymity of the content creators as well. So this year, the government introduced new IT rules under which the government is going to regulate digital news, agencies and social media channels with OTT subscription networks as well. So there were diverse networks from some media houses. While Indian Express felt like it was a smart move and it was needed as well to regulate the OTT content along with digital news. Platforms such as Scroll, on the other hand, felt like the move was anti-democratic and was against the spirit of democracy. Analysis, when asked about what watching the most, Amazon Prime stood at first with 32% of the respondents, whereas Netflix was seen as the second most popular content watching platform. And ZTV, YouTube, Sony Live, MX Player are among the others. When asked about what is the most liked feature about the OTT platforms, about 37% of the respondents said that how convenient and OTT platforms are the features that they like the most. And while talking about how offensive do they think that the content of the OTT platform is, around 31% of the respondents felt like the content was mildly offensive, whereas 29% of the respondents felt like the content was very mildly offensive. And 25% of the respondents felt like the content wasn't offensive at all. When asked about whether they feel like there's a need for regulation or censorship of OTT platforms, about 30% of the respondents disagreed, and other 30% of the respondents were neutral about the situation. And 52% of the respondents feel that the quality of content will be impacted and severely reduced post-regulation censorship of OTT platforms. And whereas 5% of the respondents feel be a very mild influence on the quality reduction. So since digital media has been largely deregulated, the content creators have had a very large hand on creativity on OTT platforms. So it recently sparked a few debates as well on national as well as international programs. So the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting recently introduced some rules and reforms. So since the guidelines do not specify precise grounds for complaints, but the difficulty for OTT platforms that is going to be introduced with the introduction of these rules is to strike a balance between the grievances of the consumers and to also take care of the social sensitivities while also taking care of the demand that their platform does for the content. And what remains to be observed is how the government is going to implement the rules in practice and whether they will serve or grant OTT platforms sufficient liberty to publish their content or not. And since the restrictions the rules are being done for restricting the content, but as of now, it appears as a speed breaker. And the main concern is whether the creative freedom of the content creators and producers of content is going to be regulated and is going to be, and if there is going to be a moral policing of such programs as well. Since the basic idea of the OTT platforms was to provide audience with diversified material, which wasn't being regulated by any government agency. So the OTT platforms should now be aware of the larger reality of the political socio-culture and should diversify their content as such. So the consumers are the most important factor in this research, and since they're the people who play the most important role in the OTT platforms, it has to be their needs and their interest has to be prioritized. Their involvement is an essential part, and the strict regulations may interfere with the sort of material that they desire to see. The independence that content producers had and have till now it produced one of the best. It produced some of the best web series such as Scam, Bulbul, and Patal Lok, since they had the freedom. And the digital platform has also mainstreamed the regional films and given them visibility as well. And the research study also reveals that the respondents feel that the quality of content will be reduced post the reduction of OTT platforms censorship. And the people who are going to be most affected by this censorship are the smaller folks, the independent producers of the content and filmmakers. So what the study concluded was the regulatory framework is going to be there in the digital age, and the policymakers and the stakeholders should work together, should work in tangent to produce a framework that is going to regulate the OTT platforms, while also keeping in mind that the freedom of speech and the independence is not hindered. Thank you.
Thank you, Purvi. Purvi, can you tell me what are the most important factors that make OTT platforms different from traditional media like films or television, which have led to the difference in the content, like you were talking about the different kinds of content. So what are the most important factors that make this OTT, that distinguish OTT from traditional media?
Yes, ma'am. So since they are self-regulatory, they've had that independence of exploring content. So the leverage that it provides is the type of content they provide. There is bold content, there is personalized content, and also since they were self-regulated, so they're not under a lot of restrictions such as TV and other platforms, other mediums.
Other than that, is there any other factor you can think of? Other than
the main, the content is the main factor, the primary factor that is the most important one over here. People watch OTT content mainly because of the content that it provides.
Okay. And tell me something about the importance of artistic freedom, in the context of regularization of content, and the importance of artistic freedom also for content creators. What's your opinion on that?
So the content that is created, it somehow shapes our opinion of the society as well, be it in a social or political structure. So the shows can show the political aspects of a society if they're focusing on that aspect, or they can focus on the social aspects while raising awareness as in about how things are happening in our society. So it's important, the artistic freedom it is very much important to show the perspective of the content producer, to show what are they exactly trying to show without hindering their vision.
Sir?
Purvi, you had collected a very, varied data, and as far as your analysis is concerned, that was not leading to a particular direction, like only 30% were not in favor of regulation, perhaps. But then how many of the respondents were in favor of the regulation? Can you tell me again?
Hello?
Yeah.
Did you get the question, Purvi?
Ma'am, my internet is acting up. Can you please repeat the question?
You tell me on your own, since you have conducted your study, how many people were for the regulation and how many people were against the regulations?
So the result was divided. Around 30% were against the regulation, while the same number were for the regulation. So the result of the analysis was sort of distributed.
So what exactly then the finding of your study?
So that there should be a balance that has to be maintained between the regulation is important. And there was a question in the research about the lockdown as well, that the content is now being consumed even more. So the audience the consumers have increased. So it's important to restrict some of the aspects which are being shown, which are problematic, but it is also important to give the content producers their leverage.
Have you defined in your study what do you mean by regulation?
No, sir.
See, in a research, this is of paramount importance. Anything that you are studying, any word, terminologies, you have to explain it, not only for the sake of somebody who might be reading your research or might be watching your presentation, but for you also, because this will give you a clarity what is meant by regulation, what is meant by self-regulation, what kind of regulations actually exist. Even if you are saying there has to be regulation or no regulation, but there are a number of regulations which already exist. So you have to have the clarity, the meaning of regulation, and then you have to name the regulations which already exist. And if there will be regulation imposed, under what head, under what act those regulations need to be imposed, whether these IT rules, which were very recently, I mean, 2.5 months, 3 months back, the government introduced in February, what kind of restrictions those regulations, those rules, IT rules will be applicable on the OTT industry. You should have gone into all those details to have a better clarity on the topic on which you have worked on.
Yes, sir. I'll take care of that from next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Purvi. And with that, we come to an end of the presentations for today. And it was quite interesting to listen to all these presentations who talked about various topics, and we had quite rich discussions. Before moving on, before handing over to Nikita again, I would like to announce that the best paper presenter for yesterday's, that is technical session 5, is Miss Shruti VS, Assistant Professor, DME Media School, for her paper on Impact of Mediatized Popular Culture on Tourism, Understanding the Game of Thrones Phenomenon. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to you, Nikita.
Thank you, ma'am. And thank you everyone for such an enlightening session. I would now again like to invite Professor Dr. Ambrish Saxena, Dean DME Media School and convener ICANN 4, to deliver the concluding remarks.
What to say in the conclusion? Obviously, the presentations were good. The discussion was also good, and it gave us a very varied account of OTT. The last presentations, particularly of the films, of the digital side, and then I mean, obviously, the presentations were really good, and I thoroughly enjoyed the presentation, and I believe everybody enjoyed the same. So that is all from my side.
Thank you, sir. I would like to thank Dr. Sapna MS for chairing over today's session and for offering her valuable insights. I would also like to extend my gratitude to Professor Dr. Ambrish Saxena, Dean DME Media School and convener ICANN 4, and Professor Dr. Susmita Bala, Head DME Media School, Chief Associate Convener ICANN 4, for the ideation and planning of all the sessions. I would also like to thank Dr. Manasvi Maheshwari, Ms. Manmeet Kaur, Ms. Shruti VS, Mr. Mohit Kishore Vats, Ms. Mudita Raj, and Mr. Pramod Kumar Pandey for their constant support and guidance. A heartfelt thanks to Mr. Ritvik Ghosh, Mr. Sumantra Sarthidas, Mr. Sachin Nair, and Mr. Yogesh Sharma for managing the overall digital operations in ICANN 4. I would like to thank our newsletter team comprising of both students and faculty members, namely Ms. Sukriti Arora and Dr. supervising and mentoring everyone. And I also thank Mr. Mohammed Kamil and Ms. Krishna Pandey for working round the clock in all the press proceedings. You can keep a check on our press proceedings on our official Facebook page of ICANN. I'd also like to thank Mr. Anmol Mehta from our DME family and Mr. Sumohit Nirala from one of our knowledge partners, KR Mangalam University's end, for tirelessly working in making our events look more beautiful, digitally so, with the help of their prolific designs. I would also like to thank the entire team, all faculty members and students who have worked day and night facing all the challenges and obstacles of the pandemic to make this conference happen. Lastly, I thank all our participants who joined this session, worked so hard on their research papers, and our audience for being here and contributing. I request everyone to follow our social media handles for more updates and information. And don't forget to visit the DME website and the ICANN4 website for any or all details. This session has been wonderful indeed, but that's not the end of the day. We'll be back with another masterclass by Professor Ranjit Verma, Director, Delhi Technical Campus, on the topic Communication Technologies for Effective Transmission of Media Message at 3 p.m. today, followed by a workshop on Emerging Technology in Journalism, 360-degree virtual reality storytelling at 6:30 p.m. That's all for now. Thank you and have a nice day.